I still remember the sound of that gate, tall, black, and heavy like a wall of iron separating the world of the rich from the world of the forgotten. It clanged shut with a finality that made me shiver, even now when I think about it. That morning had started like any other, the sun beating down on the tin roofs of Makoko, the smell of fried plantain and burning charcoal mixing in the air, and my little boy, Chike, running barefoot around the compound with his old, faded football. "Chike! Don't go far," I called, balancing a basin of laundry on my head. "Yes, Mummy," he shouted, though I knew he barely heard me. We lived in a single-room apartment, cracked walls, leaky ceiling, but it was ours. I'd fought for every piece of it. After losing my mother so young and my husband to the streets, I had promised myself that my son would never grow up feeling abandoned like I did. I was scrubbing clothes when I heard him laughing, the sound fading toward the main road. My heart skipped. "Chike!" I dropped the cloth and ran after him. That's when I saw him, that tiny figure in his yellow t-shirt, chasing his ball down the dusty street, past the roadside stalls, past the Okada riders shouting for passengers straight toward the biggest mansion on Bordelon Road. The ball rolled beneath the golden gate of the estate, and before I could shout his name again, my son slipped right in after it. "Madam, where do you think you're going?" A guard in a black uniform stepped in front of me, his rifle hanging carelessly over his shoulder. Another stood behind the gate, holding Chike by the arm. "Please, my son went inside." "No entry. This is Chief Diroji's residence. You can't just barge in here." "I'm not barging in. My boy." I said stand back, he barked. His voice was harsh, like he'd said those same words to hundreds like me before. I could see Chike's frightened eyes beyond the iron bars. He was clutching his ball to his chest. "Let me take my child," I pleaded. He didn't mean any harm. The guard shook his head. "Stay outside, woman. You people don't listen. Always bringing Waala." I felt my blood rise. "My name is Adana, and that's my son. Open this gate." He smirked. "You better lower your voice before." But before he could finish, another voice came, deep, calm, and commanding. "What's going on here?" Everything went still. Even the guards straightened up. A tall, gray-haired man in a whited bata stepped out of a black Range Rover parked in the courtyard. His face was stern but noble, the kind of face that made you lower your eyes without meaning to. It was Chief Diroji, the billionaire everyone in Lagos talked about, the man whose businesses fed half the city. "Sir," the guard stammered, "this woman, she tried to force her way in." "I didn't force anything. I cut in. My son's ball rolled in. He went to get it. That's all." The chief's eyes moved to Chike, who was still standing frozen beside his guard. Then to me, my sweaty face, my worn-out slippers, my trembling hands clutching the hem of my skirt. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Adana," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded slowly. Then, without another word, he motioned to the guards. "Let them in." The guards' jaws dropped. "Sir," I said. He repeated, "Let them in." The gate opened with a groan that echoed in my chest. I stepped inside that mansion compound for the first time in my life, and I swear, it felt like stepping onto another planet. The air inside smelled different, like jasmine and new money. The grass was so green it looked painted. There were fountains, marble statues, and cars that probably cost more than every house on my street combined. Chike's eyes were wide with wonder. "Mummy, look. The water is dancing." I pulled him close. "Don't touch anything, you hear me?" Chief Diroji watched us silently. "You said your name is Adana?" "Yes, sir." "You live nearby?" "Yes, sir." "At Makoko side?" He nodded again, his gaze distant, like something about my face had caught his memory. "Your son seems curious," he said finally, and for a moment his voice softened. I managed a smile. "He takes after his late father, always asking questions." Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe? Regret? I couldn't tell. Before I could say more, Chike's voice broke the silence. "Mummy," he whispered, tugging my hand. I turned and froze. He was standing in front of a large glass window that looked into the mansion's main hall. Inside, above a grand staircase, hung a painting, a woman's portrait. A woman with warm brown skin, deep dimples, and the same soft eyes that used to sing me to sleep. My breath caught. "Chike, come back here." But he only pointed, his small voice trembling. "Mummy, that's Grandma." The world around me seemed to stop moving. The guards looked at one another. The chief's face turned pale as chalk. I blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me, but no, there was no mistake. That was my mother, Ngozi. The same face, the same silver necklace she wore until the day she died. My knees felt weak. "Sir, where did you get that painting?" The chief's voice was quiet, almost too soft to hear. That woman, she was someone I once knew. My lips parted, but no sound came. The memory of my mother's voice echoed in my head, her warning from years ago. Never trust rich men who promise love, Adana. They always have secrets behind their gold gates. Chief Dorojiye turned away suddenly. "Guards, see them out." "But now." And just like that, the gate that had opened for me once in my life slammed shut again. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay on the thin mattress beside Chike, watching his small chest rise and fall. His words replayed in my mind like a curse. Why is Grandma's picture in that man's house? I turned to the wall, tears stinging my eyes. Could it be true? Had my mother, the woman who taught me to live honestly, who mended people's torn clothes with laughter, once known that billionaire? And if she had, what did it mean for me? I didn't know it then, but walking through that gate had changed everything. It was the beginning of a story I was never meant to uncover. A story that would shake the roots of everything I believed about love, betrayal, and blood. All night, I tossed and turned, replaying that moment over and over again in my mind, the way Chief Dorojiye's face had changed when Chike pointed at that painting. There was something in his eyes, not confusion, not surprise, but recognition. And that scared me more than anything else. By dawn, I had made up my mind. I needed to know the truth. The next morning, Lagos was already awake and noisy. Hawkers shouting prices, Danfos honking, the smell of roasted corn thick in the air. I dressed in my best wrapper, tied my ghillie tight, and took Chike by the hand. "Mummy, are we going to the big house again?" he asked, his eyes bright. "Yes, my son," I said, forcing a smile. "We have to return the ball properly." He giggled. "But I already said sorry." "I know," I said softly, "but there's something Mummy needs to ask that man." When we reached the gate, the guards from yesterday almost laughed. "Ah, this woman again," one of them said. "I told you people," the other added. "Some women no day hear word." "I just need to speak with your Olga," I said, trying to stay calm. "It's important. Important." The first guard smirked. "You think our Olga has time for riffraff from Makoko? Move back before I—" "Who's making that noise again?" A familiar voice cut through the air. It was the same deep baritone, Chief Dorojiye himself, stepping out in a crisp blue agbada, holding a leather folder. The guards froze immediately. "Good morning, sir." He glanced at me, his face unreadable. "Madam. Adana, right?" "Yes, sir." "What brings you here again?" I swallowed hard. "Sir, forgive me for disturbing you, but I need to ask, that painting inside your house, the woman in it, who is she?" The guards exchanged looks. Chief Dorojiye's eyes narrowed slightly. "Why do you want to know?" "Because—" my throat tightened. "Because she looks exactly like my mother." For a long moment, he said nothing. The only sound was the rustle of palm leaves in the wind. Then he turned to his head guard. "Let them in." This time, the gate opened more quietly. We walked across the driveway, past the fountain that sparkled under the morning sun. Chike kept close to me, whispering questions I couldn't answer. Inside, the mansion was even grander than I remembered. The floor gleamed like glass, and the air smelled faintly of lavender. Paintings lined the walls, faces of power, pride, and wealth. But my eyes went straight to her. There she was again, Mama. Ngozi, the woman who had raised me on laughter and stories when all we had was Gary and hope. The woman whose smile I thought I'd never see again. Tears filled my eyes before I even knew they were coming. Chief Dorojiye stood behind me in silence. "She's beautiful," he said softly, his voice heavy with memory. I turned to him. "You knew her, didn't you?" He hesitated, then sighed. "That was a long time ago." "What do you mean was—" My voice trembled. "Who was she to you?" He looked at me, really looked at me, as though seeing me for the first time. His gaze went from my eyes to my cheekbones, then to the small silver chain around my neck. "Where did you get that necklace?" he asked suddenly. I touched it instinctively. "My mother gave it to me before she died. She said it would remind me of who I am." His face paled. "Did she ever mention my name?" he asked quietly. I frowned. "No. She never spoke of any rich man. Only said to stay away from them." He gave a bitter smile. "That sounds like her." My heart pounded. "Sir, please, tell me the truth. Who was my mother to you?" He turned away, staring at the portrait. "Ngozi and I, we were close. Very close. She was—" He stopped himself, shaking his head. "It doesn't matter anymore. It matters to me," I said, louder than I intended. "All my life I've had questions. Who my father was, why my mother cried at night, why she told me love was dangerous. If you know something, tell me." His shoulders stiffened. "Enough." The warmth in his tone vanished. "This is not a place for drama. You should leave." I felt my heart crack in two. "So that's it? You'll just pretend you don't know what I'm talking about." He didn't answer. I could feel tears burning behind my eyes. "You owe me the truth, sir, even if it hurts." "Madam, please," one of the house staff said gently. "Chief has an important meeting." Chike looked up at the painting again. "Mummy," he whispered. "She looks happy there." That innocent voice, so pure, so unaware, seemed to pierce something deep in the chief. He turned to look at my son for a long, heavy moment. Then his lips trembled. "What's his name?" he asked. "Chike! Chike!" He repeated it softly, like testing the sound of it. "You named him that?" "Yes," I said. "It means God's power." He nodded slowly. Ngozi used to say the same thing, that God's power was greater than men's pride. His voice cracked at the end of that sentence. Then he looked away quickly, wiping something from his eye. I stood there frozen, my breath shallow. There was no longer any doubt in my heart. This man had known my mother intimately. But how? And why had she never told me? When he finally turned back, his tone was brisk again, but the softness in his eyes betrayed him. "Adana, I'll have my assistant call you. There are things you deserve to know. But not today." I wanted to argue, but something in his face told me he was fighting his own war inside. So I just nodded. "Thank you, sir." He gave Chike a small smile, the first time I had seen one on his face. "Be a good boy for your mother." "I will, sir." Chike grinned. The chief turned and walked up the marble stairs slowly, his footsteps echoing through the grand hall. Outside, the sun was high and hot. I could barely breathe as we walked away from that house. My legs felt weak, my heart heavier than ever. "Mummy," Chike said, holding my hand, "that man looked like you." I blinked. "What did you say?" He pointed back toward the gate. "The big man. His eyes, they shine like yours." My steps faltered. Was it possible? Could it be that the man everyone in Lagos called Chief Duroji the Great was somehow connected to us? As we boarded the Kiki back to Makoko, I looked at the silver necklace around my neck and whispered, "Mama, what did you hide from me?" The city rolled past in a blur of dust and horns, but my thoughts were elsewhere, on the face of the man who had looked at me with both guilt and love, and on the portrait of my mother smiling down from his mansion wall. Some truths, I realized, don't stay buried forever. They wait, and when the time is right, they return, demanding to be heard. When I got home that evening, the whole compound was alive with noise. Children laughing, women gossiping around buckets of water, someone frying puff-puff near the gate. But inside my room, there was only silence. I sat on the edge of the bed, my fingers tracing the silver chain around my neck, and my thoughts drifted backward, to a time before Chike, before Makoko, before I learned that love could disappear overnight. It was the rainy season of 1999. I was 12. Our home back then was small, a one-room wooden shack near Yaba. Every time it rained, we had to place bowls under the leaks in the roof. But I never cared. Mama made the house feel like heaven. She'd hum old Igbo hymns as she sewed clothes by the window, her laughter mixing with the thunder outside. "Adana," she'd call. "Bring me that spool of red thread, my sunshine." "Yes, Mama." I'd run to her, happy just to be needed. We didn't have much, but we had each other. And she always said that was enough. "Money finishes," she'd tell me. But love lasts if you keep it honest. Those words stayed in my heart, even when she stopped smiling. It began slowly, the change in her. One evening, she came home later than usual. Her wrapper was dusty, and her eyes red like she'd been crying. I ran to her, worried. "Mama, what happened?" She smiled too quickly. "Nothing, my child. Just tired. Lagos traffic." But as she undressed, I saw something that confused me. A small golden bracelet on her wrist, the kind I had only seen rich women wear in magazines. She never explained where it came from. After that day, strange things began to appear. New fabrics, expensive perfume, food we could never afford before. I was young but not blind. "Are you working for rich people now?" I asked one night. She froze, the needle in her hand trembling. Then she said softly, something like that. One Sunday afternoon, I followed her. I know I shouldn't have, but something inside me needed to understand. She took a danfo heading toward Akoi. She looked different that day, her hair neatly tied, her best wrapper pressed. I hid a few seats behind her. When she got down near a big white mansion, I watched her walk to the gate and speak to a guard. He let her in like he knew her well. That was the last time I saw her smile like that, open, young, alive. When she came home later, I asked her where she went. Her eyes darkened. "Don't ever follow me again, Adana. Some doors are not meant for girls like us." Her voice shook, not with anger, but fear. Not long after, she started falling sick. At first it was cough, then fever, then the nights she'd sit up shivering, whispering prayers I didn't understand. "Mama," I'd cry, "we need to go to the hospital." "Don't worry," she'd say weakly. "I'll be fine." But she wasn't fine. And the day she couldn't stand anymore, I ran to the neighbors for help. They took her to a small clinic down the street. The doctor shook his head after examining her. "Your mother needs better care," he said. "Do you have any family?" I said no. I didn't even know my father's name. He sighed. "Then pray, my child." I prayed. Every night. But my prayers were answered in silence. One evening, as the rain poured hard against the roof, Mama called me close. Her breathing was shallow, her skin pale. She took my hand and pressed something cold into it. This same silver necklace I still wear. "Adana," she whispered, "listen to me. No matter what happens, you must never hate life. And never let anyone tell you that you are less because of where you came from." Tears blurred my eyes. "Don't talk like that, Mama. You'll get better." She smiled faintly. "You have your father's stubbornness." I froze. It was the first time she had ever mentioned him. "Mama, who is my father?" Her lips trembled. For a moment, I thought she'd tell me. But she only said, "He was a man who loved me, but couldn't stand up for me. And that is all you need to know." She closed her eyes after that. By morning, she was gone. I buried her with the help of neighbors. No family came. No one asked questions. I was 12 years old and alone in the world. From that day, I built walls around my heart. I worked, I struggled, I survived. And I swore that if I ever found that man who had broken my mother's heart, I'd look him in the eye and ask one question: why? Now, years later, standing before that same golden gate, that question was burning again inside me. Because I knew, somehow, some way, the man behind that gate had the answer. And maybe he was the one Mama had been protecting me from all along. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I lay listening to the rain against the roof, hearing Mama's voice in my memory. And when I finally drifted off, I dreamt of her, wearing that same golden bracelet, standing in front of that mansion, her smile fading as a man in a white agbada turned away from her. When I woke up, my pillow was wet with tears. Something inside me had shifted. I was done running from ghosts. If the past wanted to be uncovered, I would dig, even if it meant bleeding. Because the truth about my mother wasn't gone. It was buried, and I was ready to find it. 2 nights after that dream, I found myself standing outside the mansion gate again. I don't even remember deciding to come. My feet simply led me there, like they knew the road better than my mind did. The guards frowned the moment they saw me. "Madam," again, one of them groaned. "Yes," I said, clutching my worn handbag. "Please tell your Olga I just need a few minutes." He rolled his eyes. "Our Olga's busy." Before I could plead, a black Lexus rolled through the side entrance. The tinted window lowered just enough for me to see those same sharp, unreadable eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses. Chief Durojuye. He motioned to the guard. Let her in. My heart thudded. The drive up to the mansion felt longer this time. The morning sun bounced off the marble walls, too bright, too clean. I felt out of place, dust on polished stone. Inside, the scent of jasmine and imported wood polish almost choked me. Chief Durojuye was waiting in the sitting room, beside a grand piano that looked like it had never been played. He gestured to a chair. Sit, Adana. I sat, gripping my handbag. Thank you, sir. He studied me for a moment, his elbows resting on the armrest, fingers intertwined. You said your mother was named Ngozi. Yes. He exhaled slowly. There are many women named Ngozi, but not many with that face, I whispered, nodding toward the portrait in the hallway. You can deny it, but you knew her. He looked away, eyes flickering toward the window. Some memories are better left where they belong. Not when they still haunt the living, I said. Please, Chief. I deserve the truth. For the first time, his shoulders slumped. You remind me of her, he murmured. The same fire in your eyes. The same way she refused to listen. Then tell me who she was to you. I pressed. He rubbed his temples. Ngozi worked in my family's garment factory years ago. She was bright, talented. Too talented for the life she had. He smiled faintly, sadness lacing the edges. I was much younger, newly married, foolish enough to believe I could fix the world. So you helped her? I asked. In a way. His gaze darkened. But my family did not approve. She was poor, beneath our class. They called her a distraction. Something in my chest tightened. Did you love her? He looked at me, and for a heartbeat the mask slipped. Yes, he said quietly. I loved her more than I was allowed to. The words hung between us like smoke. I swallowed. She got sick. She died young. Did you know that? His face went pale. No, he whispered. I looked for her. After they sent her away, I tried. But my father made sure I could never find her. The room felt suddenly small. The ticking of the wall clock grew louder. So you forgot her, I said bitterly. You built this empire and hung her picture on your wall like a trophy. He flinched, but didn't deny it. I kept it because it's all I had left. A reminder of what I lost. My eyes stung. And what about what she lost, Chief? Her home. Her dignity. The truth she never got to tell me. He closed his eyes briefly. You don't understand the world I lived in, Adana. Back then, men like me, men like you, I interrupted, still think money can bury the past. But some things don't stay buried. He opened his eyes again, and I saw something unexpected there. Not anger, not pride, fear. He whispered, You look exactly like her when you're angry. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then a knock came at the door. Sir, a young man in a suit said, stepping in, Your son is here for the board meeting. Chief Durojuye nodded without looking away from me. Tell him I'll be there shortly. The assistant hesitated, eyeing me curiously, then left. I stood. You have your life, your meetings, your money. I have nothing but questions. But I will find my answers, Chief Durojuye, with or without your help. I turned toward the door. His voice stopped me. Adana, wait! I looked back. He rose slowly, gripping the chair for support, his breathing uneven. I will send for you tomorrow. There are things you must see. Documents, photographs. But be careful what you wish for. The truth can hurt more than lies. I met his gaze. I've lived with pain all my life, sir. I can handle the truth. Outside, the afternoon sun felt heavy on my skin. Chaik ran to me from the neighbor's car, waving a half-eaten meat pie. Mummy! Did the rich man shout again? I forced a smile. No, my son. Not this time. But as we walked away, I turned back one last time. Through the high window, I saw Chief Durojuye watching us. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes. They were my mother's eyes. The same shade, the same sadness. And in that instant, I knew, whatever secret bound him to my mother was not finished. That night, I wrote in the old notebook Mama left behind. Her handwriting faded, pages smelling of dust and soap. I drew the mansion gate, the painting, and two pairs of eyes staring at each other across time. Tomorrow, he said, he would show me the truth. But deep down, I feared I already knew it. I woke before dawn, long before the roosters started crowing, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. Chief Durojairi had said he would send for me, but something inside me, maybe my mother's spirit, refused to wait. The truth had been hidden for too long, and I knew people like him, powerful men who changed their minds by breakfast. So I decided to find it myself. By the time Lagos was awake, I had arranged for my neighbor's daughter to watch Chike. I took a kiki straight to Ikoyi, my palms sweating the whole ride. When the mansion came into view, my stomach turned. The gates were open, delivery trucks parked outside. It was the perfect chance. I slipped in quietly, pretending to be one of the catering staff. The uniform helped. Plain black dress, white apron borrowed from a friend. Inside, the house buzzed with movement. Workers setting tables, polishing silverware, arranging flowers. I kept my head down, moving through the hall like I belonged. But every step I took brought me closer to that portrait, Mama's face watching me from above the staircase like she was whispering, "Keep going." I found myself near the study, a massive wooden door half open, revealing shelves of books, trophies, and framed certificates. No one was inside. I slipped through and closed the door behind me, my heart hammering so loudly I could hear it echo off the walls. The room smelled of old paper and cologne. Sunlight cut across the floor, lighting up a heavy mahogany desk cluttered with files. That was where I started. Drawer after drawer. Invoices, business contracts, property deeds. Nothing personal. Until I found one drawer that didn't open all the way, something wedged inside. I tugged gently. It gave way with a creak. Inside, beneath a stack of yellowed envelopes, was a leather-bound photo album. The kind people use before digital cameras, real photographs, thick pages that smelled of dust and memory. My hands shook as I opened it. The first photo stopped my breath. There she was, Mama, smiling, young, radiant, and standing beside her, arm around her shoulder, was a much younger Chief Durojairi. No gray hair then, no agbada, just a simple shirt, eyes full of love and pride. I turned the page. There were more. Mama laughing at a picnic table, feeding him a piece of suya. Another of them standing beside a black Mercedes, her belly slightly rounded. My vision blurred with tears. Mama had been pregnant, and from the date scribbled at the corner of the photo, it was the same year I was born. I flipped to the last page and found something tucked inside the cover, a small note, written in elegant handwriting. To my dearest Ngozi, you are my light in a world that never wanted us to shine. Forever in my heart. Duro! My knees weakened. I sank to the floor, pressing the note to my chest, sobbing into my palms. All these years, all the questions, the shame, the loneliness, all of it had a name now. I was his daughter. The mighty Chief Durojairi, the billionaire whose face graced magazine covers, whose name opened doors across Lagos, was the same man who left my mother to die alone. I wanted to hate him, but all I felt was hollow. The door creaked open behind me. I froze. "Adana," came a familiar voice, low, pained. It was the housekeeper. Mama F. I'd seen her before, an elderly woman who always walked slowly with a limp. Her eyes, kind and sharp, studied me with quiet sadness. "What are you doing here, my child?" she asked softly. I wiped my eyes, clutching the photo album. I had to know the truth. She sighed and closed the door behind her. I told him this day would come. "What day?" I asked, standing up. "The day you found what was hidden," she said. "Your mother, she was a good woman, and your father loved her. But his family, they were cruel, proud people. They said she would ruin him, so they made her disappear." Her voice broke on that last word. I shook my head, angry tears streaming down. "Disappear? You mean they threw her away like she was nothing?" She took my hands gently. "They threatened her, Adana. She left to protect him. And you." I stared at her. Protect him? He had everything. She had nothing. Mama F's eyes glistened. "Your mother didn't want you to grow up in a house full of hate. She chose peace for you, even if it meant suffering." Silence filled the room. The ticking of the old wall clock was the only sound. Finally I asked, "Does he know that I'm his daughter?" She nodded slowly. "He's known since the first day you came here. He saw your face and he couldn't hide it. But he's a proud man, Adana. Pride has destroyed him more than any sickness. I closed the album, tears dripping onto the leather cover. He said he would show me the truth tomorrow. He just didn't know I'd find it first. Mama F gave a sad smile. Sometimes the truth doesn't wait for permission. Then she placed a wrinkled hand on my cheek. Whatever you do next, my child, do it with your mother's heart, not his. I left the study quietly, the photo album hidden under my shawl. Outside, the afternoon heat pressed against my skin. When I reached the gate, I turned back one last time. The mansion loomed over me, silent, beautiful, empty. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a graveyard of secrets, and I had just unearthed the first of many. That night, I sat on my bed staring at the photos spread out before me. Shaik slept beside me, his small hand resting on my arm. I looked at him, his wide eyes, his gentle smile, and realized something that made me tremble. He looked more like Chief Durojuiri than I ever had. Blood doesn't lie. The truth was out, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a wound, open and raw. And I knew the hardest part was still ahead. Tomorrow I would face him, not as a poor woman from Makoko, but as the daughter he left behind. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mama smiling in those photographs, standing beside a man who now ruled Lagos like a god. My chest burned with confusion, grief, and anger. By morning, I made up my mind. I would go back. Not to hide, not to sneak, but to confront him. Yet something told me not to rush. The truth was heavy, and if I wanted to carry it, I needed to understand its full weight. So, I went back to the mansion that evening, not to the main house, but to the servants' quarters. To see Mama F. The old woman's quarters sat behind the flower gardens, far from the glittering lights of the main house. The walls were cracked, the curtains faded, but the place smelled of peace, warm tea and lavender soap. She opened the door before I even knocked, as though she'd been expecting me. "Adana," she said softly. "Come in, child." Inside, I sat by the little wooden table while she poured me zobo from a jug. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were steady, like someone who had seen too many storms to fear another one. I placed the old photo album on the table between us. "You knew my mother." She nodded. "I did. I loved her like my own daughter." "Tell me," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Tell me everything." Mama F sighed deeply. "It started almost 30 years ago," she began. "Back when Chief Durojuiri wasn't a chief yet. He was just Duro, a young accountant from a small town, trying to make something of himself. He was kind, humble, and lonely." She looked away, eyes lost in memory. "Then your mother, Ngozi, came to work here. She was the new seamstress. The madam of the house, Chief's mother, wanted uniforms sewn for the staff. I remember the first day Duro saw her. He froze. She laughed and said, 'Sir, are you the tailor too?' Mama F chuckled softly, then sighed. He was gone from that moment. They were inseparable. He would sneak into the laundry room just to watch her work. He told me once, 'Her laughter sounds like home.' My throat tightened. 'That sounds like Mama,' I murmured. 'But his family didn't approve,' she continued, voice low. 'They were proud Yoruba elites. Your mother was Igbo and poor. To them, that was unforgivable. They warned him, threatened him.' Her tone grew bitter. 'When Ngozi got pregnant, the chief's mother called her a curse. She said if Duro didn't end things, he'd lose everything, his job, his inheritance, his name.' Tears filled my eyes. 'So he chose them over her?' Mama F hesitated, then shook her head. 'No, he chose her first. They ran away. For a while, they lived in a small apartment in Suralere. Happy, hidden. But when she was 5 months pregnant, his family found them. I still remember that night, the shouting, the banging on the door, his mother screaming that Ngozi had ruined their bloodline. Her voice cracked. 'What happened after that?' I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. 'They dragged him back home,' she said quietly. 'His mother threatened to disown him, to destroy him. He begged Ngozi to wait, to give him time to fix things. But by the time he came back,' her eyes glistened. 'She was gone.' I stared at her. 'Gone where?' 'She left Lagos,' Mama F whispered. 'She left everything behind. She said she wouldn't let her child grow up in a house built on hate. I begged her to stay, but she said, If he truly loves me, he will find me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But he never did. I pressed my hands over my mouth to hold back a sob. Mama had carried that pain, the betrayal, the loneliness, all alone. She had worked herself to death, while the man who once held her in his arms sat in luxury, haunted by the ghost of the woman he couldn't protect. Mama F. reached across the table and took my hand. Adana, your mother never stopped loving him. Even when she was sick, she would look out the window every evening and say, maybe today he will come. But he never came, and she died waiting. Tears streamed down my face. And he lived as if she never existed. The old woman nodded sadly. He buried her in his heart. But when he saw you that day at the gate, it all came back. I saw it in his eyes, the recognition, the guilt. That's why he couldn't speak. For a while we sat in silence. The night crickets chirped outside. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear faint laughter from the mansion. A party, maybe, or just the sound of wealth being careless. Does he know I know? I asked finally. Mama F. shook her head. No. But he will soon. I looked at the album again. He can't hide anymore. I need to hear it from him, from his own mouth. She sighed. If you do this, Adana, be ready. That house has many secrets, and some of them still live there. What do you mean? I frowned. The madam, she whispered. His wife. She knows about Ngozi. She was the one who made sure your mother never came back. And if she finds out who you are, she will not rest. The warning sent a chill down my spine. But I'd come too far to turn back. I'm not afraid, I said, wiping my tears. I just want the truth. Mama F's face softened. She cupped my cheek gently. You are your mother's child, strong, stubborn, and full of heart. Promise me something. What? When you stand before him, remember you're not there to beg. You're there to remind him that love never dies, even when people do. I nodded, swallowing hard. I promise. When I stepped out into the night, the sky was heavy with clouds. Thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, and the wind smelled like rain. I clutched the photo album to my chest and looked toward the mansion glowing on the hill, bright, silent, untouchable. Somewhere inside, the man who destroyed my mother's life was waiting. And tomorrow, I would make him face her ghost through me. The next morning felt different, heavier, like the air itself knew something was about to break. I woke before the sun rose, holding the old photo album tight against my chest. Mama's face smiled up at me from the pictures, and I whispered, I'm doing this for you. I dressed simply, a plain cream blouse and a long black skirt. No makeup, no jewelry. I wanted him to see me as I was, not a beggar, not a stranger, but blood. When I reached the mansion gate, the guards recognized me immediately. Their usual arrogance melted into confusion. Madam, the chief said if you ever come again, we should let you in. One of them said quietly. I stepped through the gates. My legs trembled, but my heart was steady. I wasn't walking into a mansion anymore. I was walking into the truth. Inside, the house was strangely quiet. The ticking of the grand clock echoed through the hallway. The butler led me upstairs to a study I hadn't seen before. The air smelled of cologne and medicine. And there he was, Chief de Rogerier, sitting behind a desk, a blanket over his knees, looking smaller than I remembered. His eyes, once sharp and commanding, now looked weary, like someone who had spent years running from ghosts. He looked up slowly. Adana, he said, his voice low. You came. Yes, I replied, standing tall. You asked me to wait for the truth. I decided to find it myself. His eyes darted to the album in my hands. You found it then. I placed it on his desk and opened to the photo of him and Mama, smiling together. You loved her, I said. It wasn't a question. His lips trembled, more than life itself. Then why did you leave her to die alone? Silence. Thick. Crushing. He closed his eyes, his hand shaking slightly. Because I was weak. His voice cracked like dry wood. My family, they gave me a choice. Her or everything I'd built. I told myself I'd go back for her. I told myself it was temporary. But when I finally did, he swallowed hard. She was gone. I could feel tears burning in my eyes. She waited for you. Every day. She died believing you'd come. His jaw clenched. Don't think I haven't lived with that. Every night for 30 years, I've seen her face. I've heard her voice. I built empires, but nothing filled the emptiness she left. I wanted to hate him, but standing there, seeing the guilt in his eyes, the trembling of his hands, I saw not the billionaire everyone feared, but a broken man who had traded love for power and lost both. Still, I needed proof. Words weren't enough. I need to know the truth, I said firmly. Not from your memories. From science. He frowned. What do you mean? A DNA test, I said. You and me. No more hiding. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You have your mother's courage, he murmured. She said our daughter would grow to have a fire in her spirit. She was right. He reached for the phone and called his assistant. Within an hour, a doctor arrived, quiet, professional, carrying a small kit. The procedure was simple. Swabs from the inside of our cheeks. Samples labeled, sealed, and taken away. When the doctor left, silence settled again. He looked at me. If it comes back positive, what then? I met his eyes. Then I'll finally know who I am. He nodded slowly, exhaling deeply. I don't deserve forgiveness, Adana. But maybe you can forgive the part of me that loved her. That part is still alive. Something in me softened, though I fought it. You had decades to make things right. I know, he whispered, and I ran out of time. His hand trembled as he pressed it against his chest. That was when I noticed, the oxygen tank beside his chair, the faint wheeze in his breath. You're sick, I said quietly. He gave a sad smile. My heart is failing. The doctors say it's too late for surgery. I guess this old heart couldn't carry all that guilt forever. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. The anger that had carried me here felt suddenly small. He looked at me, his eyes shining. All I ever wanted was to see Ngozi again, to tell her I was sorry. But seeing you, he paused, voice breaking. It feels like she came back. I turned away, blinking back tears. You can't say that. You had your chance. I know, he whispered. But maybe God gave me this one, to make peace before I go. I wanted to walk out, to hold on to my anger, but something rooted me there. Maybe it was Mama's voice inside me, whispering, forgive him, if only for your own peace. So I stayed. 2 days later, the results arrived. The doctor came back, sealed envelope in hand. The air in that room could have shattered glass. I didn't breathe as Chief Durogier broke the seal, unfolded the paper, and read silently. Then he looked up, eyes full of tears. It's true, he said softly. You are my daughter. My knees gave way, and I sat down slowly, staring at him, my vision blurring. All the years of shame, of poverty, of wondering why my mother's life ended in struggle, it all came crashing down. The truth was real, and it hurt. He reached across the table, his old hand trembling. Adana, please let me make it right. What's left of my time, I want it to mean something. For you. For her. I shook my head, my voice breaking. You can't fix 30 years with one truth, Chief. I know, he said, voice hoarse. But maybe we can start with forgiveness. I looked at him, this man who had once been my mother's love, my secret father, the cause of all her pain, and I saw something unexpected. Regret. Pure, honest human regret. Maybe that was all the forgiveness I could give, not for him, but for me. That night, when I got home, I found Chaik asleep on the couch, clutching the small wooden cross my mother used to wear. I knelt beside him, brushed his hair gently, and whispered, You have a grandfather, my son. A broken one, but he's ours. A week later, I received a call from the mansion. Chief Durogier had been admitted to the hospital. His heart had weakened. Mama F's voice was trembling on the phone. He's asking for you, Adana. He says he can't leave without seeing you. My chest tightened. The man who once shut his heart to my mother was now dying, and only I could give him peace. I took Chaik's hand and whispered a silent prayer. Maybe this is what Mama wanted all along, not revenge, but peace. The mansion never looked the same after that DNA test. Even the walls seemed colder, the chandeliers harsher, like they knew the truth could no longer be hidden. I returned with Chaik that afternoon, walking through the gate with my head high. The servants whispered behind us. Some avoided my gaze, others bowed deeply. I felt a strange power, but it didn't feel good. Not yet. Then I saw them. Chief Durogi's wife, Ifeoma, was waiting in the sitting room with his 2 grown children, Tund and Amara. I had met them briefly before, but today their expressions were something else, suspicion mixed with disdain. I stepped forward, photo album in hand. "I'm Adana, your father's daughter." Silence. Then Amara laughed, sharp, brittle. "Excuse me? You must be joking." I swallowed the anger that boiled in my chest. The DNA test doesn't lie. I am his daughter. Ifeoma's eyes narrowed, and her voice sliced through the air. "You? A child from his past? You expect us to just accept that?" I met her gaze evenly. "I don't expect anything. I'm not here to be accepted. I'm here to meet the truth, and to let him know what you tried to bury cannot stay buried." Tun stepped forward. "This is absurd. You have no claim here, no right to our father or this house. You're nothing but a story someone made up to get attention." I felt my fists clench, but I held my voice steady. "I have every right. I have the blood of Ngozi running through me. And if you want proof, it's in that envelope the doctor gave your father, the one you refused to see." The air turned icy. Ifeoma's face was a mask of fury and fear. "You think you can come into this house and erase our lives?" she spat. I shook my head. "I'm not erasing anything. I'm just asking for acknowledgement. That's all my mother ever wanted, that the man who loved her see her daughter, see the result of her life." Tun scoffed. "You expect him to choose you over us?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only they could hear. "I'm not asking him to choose. I'm asking him to recognize what he abandoned, and maybe to finally make peace with it." The room was tense, hearts beating against the walls like a warning drum. I could see the cracks forming in their armor, the truth slipping through their fingers. Then a voice broke through the tension. Chief Durogi himself. "Ifeoma! Tund! Amara! Enough!" I turned to see him leaning on his cane, pale but standing tall in the way only a man used to power could manage. "You've known something was wrong all along," he said slowly, his voice sharp and deliberate. "And instead of facing it, you chose to protect your comfort. But the truth," he gestured toward me, "is not yours to control." Ifeoma's lips trembled. You're just humoring her. She's not your daughter. He cut her off. "The DNA test says otherwise. I can't undo her. I can't erase Ngozi's blood." For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not just for me, but for the family she had built. A family built on lies, on silence. Tun sneered, but his hands were shaking. "So what now? She moves in? Takes over everything?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not here for wealth. I'm here for the truth, for acknowledgement, and maybe, if you let me, a chance to understand the father I never had." Chief Durogi's voice softened, almost pleading. "I have lived my life carrying Ngozi's absence. I can't erase it, but I can try. For her, for Adana, for what little time I have left." Amara stepped back, tears in her eyes now, anger and confusion battling. "All these years, and we never knew?" I nodded. "You didn't know, because someone made sure the truth stayed hidden. But hiding it doesn't undo it. I exist, and now you will see me." That day, the mansion became more than a home of wealth. It became a battlefield of secrets, lies, and finally, confrontation. I walked out of the room that afternoon knowing one thing. I was no longer just Adana from Makoko. I was Adana, daughter of Ngozi and Chief Durogi, a truth too powerful to be ignored, too real to be denied. And even if the family wanted to turn their backs, I would not. Because some legacies cannot be buried, and some mother's love refuses to stay silent. That night, Chaik slept in my arms as I stared at the ceiling, heart racing. Tomorrow, I would see my father, not as the billionaire, not as the man who abandoned my mother, but as the man I needed answers from. And I would finally ask the question that had haunted me all my life. Why did you leave her to die alone? The next morning, the mansion felt like a cage. Every step I took echoed off the marble floors. Every whisper of the servants seemed louder than usual. The walls themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting. I walked into the study. Chief Durogi was already there, seated in his leather chair. His face looked older than the last time I saw him, thinner, paler, eyes shadowed with sleepless nights. "Sit," he said, motioning to the chair across from him. I obeyed, clutching the photo album. Silence stretched between us. Heavy, thick, suffocating. Finally, he spoke. You want answers. I will tell you everything. All of it. He began slowly, like dredging up memories too painful to hold. Your mother, Ngozi, she was my world before the world became bigger than us. I loved her with everything I had. But I was young, foolish. And my family, they were monsters. I felt my stomach knot. Monsters. They were proud, selfish, cruel. When they found out she was pregnant, they threatened me, threatened my job, my inheritance, my name. They told me I had to choose between her and everything I would ever become. You chose them, I said quietly, anger rising. No, he whispered, voice cracking. I tried to choose her. I ran away with her. For months we hid, we laughed, we hoped. But when her pregnancy became obvious, they found us. They surrounded the apartment, threatened to ruin us. I begged her to come back with me. I thought I could fight them later. His hands shook, but she refused. She said if she came back, you and she would suffer even more. She wanted to protect you, Adana. That's why she left. That's why she disappeared from my life forever. I closed my eyes. I had imagined her leaving in so many ways. Angry, bitter, desperate. But not like this. Not with love still burning in her chest. Choosing my life over hers. Do you understand now? He asked, voice trembling. I never stopped loving her. Every empire, every deal, every mansion, it was empty without her. I lived 30 years in her absence, and never a day passed when I didn't think of her. I swallowed hard. And you did nothing while she was sick. His eyes filled with tears. I tried. I searched. I sent people. I offered bribes, favors, anything. But by the time I found out she was gone, it was too late. Silence settled. My chest ached, a mixture of rage and pity battling inside me. Then he leaned forward, gripping his cane tightly. And now I see you. My daughter. I see the fire she carried, the stubbornness, the courage. I am not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I am begging for understanding. For a chance to do right, even in these last days. I looked at him, my hand shaking. Do you know what it felt like to grow up without her? To have no father? To wonder every day why the person who loved her couldn't protect her? I do, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. Every night I imagined your face. Every Christmas I sent gifts to the wrong address. I saw her in you before I knew who you were. My vision blurred. I wanted to scream, to hit, to hug, to run. All at once. The rage inside me demanded justice, but the grief demanded closure. Why did you hang her picture in your mansion? I asked finally. He closed his eyes, voice barely audible. Because she deserved to be remembered. Because I couldn't keep her alive in my arms, I kept her alive in my home. In my heart. Every day I looked at her face, and I wished I could turn back time. I stayed silent, letting his confession wash over me. All the years of pain, poverty, and confusion suddenly had a shape, a name, a story. Then he whispered something I never expected. Do you know what she said before she left? She said, if our child ever finds me, let her know she is loved, and let her know she has a father who will never give up again. I promised her I would keep that promise. And now here you are. I stared at him. The man who had caused so much pain was now breaking, exposing the cracks of a life built on wealth, but haunted by love lost. I don't know if I can forgive you, I admitted, but I understand now. I finally understand. He reached out, trembling. That's all I ever wanted, to be understood, not to be absolved. Just understood. We sat there for hours, the silence broken only by his shaky breathing and the ticking clock. He told me stories I had never heard, of my mother laughing, of his youthful foolishness, of the sacrifices Ngozi made so I could survive. And for the first time, I felt a strange peace settle over me. Not because the past could be erased, it couldn't, but because the truth was finally spoken. I touched the silver chain around my neck, the one my mother left me, and whispered, Mama, it's over. I know everything now. Chief Dorogi's eyes, wet and weary, met mine. Go, Adana. Live your life. Carry her memory with pride. And if you can, let me be a part of yours, while I still can. For the first time, I saw him not as the man who abandoned my mother, but as a human being, flawed, broken, but finally honest. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in decades: closure. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the mansion, casting golden light over polished floors and marble walls. For the first time, it didn't feel cold or intimidating. Today, it felt like a place where truth and love could finally live. I stepped into the sitting room with Chaik at my side, holding his small hand tightly. Chief Doroji was there, sitting with a blanket over his legs, pale but alert. Ifeoma, Tund, and Amara were also present, their expressions a mixture of resentment, confusion, and curiosity. The air was tense, but I didn't falter. I had come too far to let fear stop me now. Today, I began, my voice steady, we settle what has been broken for 30 years. I am Adana, daughter of Ngozi and Chief Doroji. I am here not to take what is yours, but to reclaim what is rightfully mine: acknowledgement, love, and the memory of my mother. Ifeoma's lips trembled. Tund and Amara exchanged uneasy glances. Chief Doroji cleared his throat. This family has lived with secrets and lies for too long, he said. And now we have a chance to make it right. He turned to me. Adana, you carry Ngozi's spirit in your heart. You are her courage, her fire, and her love. I cannot undo the past, but I can help you build the future. I felt tears prick my eyes. This was not just about forgiveness. This was about honoring my mother's life, the sacrifices she made, the love she gave, and the child she left behind. Ifeoma spoke next, her voice low. I cannot undo my pride. I allowed fear and jealousy to rule me, but perhaps it is time to recognize what has been hidden. You are part of this family, whether I like it or not. Tun nodded reluctantly. I never imagined, all these years, and you were right here. Amara's eyes softened, and she finally said, I see her now. I see what we denied, and I am sorry. The walls of resentment and denial that had held this family captive for decades finally began to crumble. Chief Doroji reached out and took my hand gently. Adana, your mother loved you fiercely. I failed her, but I can try to honor her through you and Chaik. Will you let me? I squeezed his hand, feeling the weight of 30 years lift from my shoulders. Yes, I whispered. But we do it together, as a family, not just for her, but for us. Chaik tugged at my sleeve, his small eyes wide. Grandpa. I laughed softly, brushing his hair back. Yes, my son. This is your grandfather. The old man's eyes glistened with tears. For the first time in decades, his heart felt lighter. Weeks passed. Ifeoma learned to coexist with me, grudgingly at first, but gradually with understanding. Tund and Amara opened their hearts slowly, realizing that the daughter they had denied was part of their father's story, and now part of their lives too. Chief Doroji's health remained fragile, but his heart was full. Every day, he spent time with Chaik, teaching him to ride a bike in the garden, telling him stories of Ngozi's laughter, and sharing memories of the past he had kept locked away. For me, the mansion was no longer a symbol of wealth or power. It was a place of reconciliation, a place where the love my mother gave, and the mistakes of the past, could finally find peace. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the Lego skyline in orange and gold, I stood on the balcony with Chaik in my arms. Do you see, my son? I whispered. The past does not define us. It teaches us. It gives us strength. And it shows us that love, real love, can survive even when people try to bury it. Chaik giggled, pointing at the sky. Mama, look. The sun says hello. I laughed, tears spilling down my cheeks. Yes, Chaik. The sun says hello. And so does life. Behind us, Chief Doroji watched from the doorway, his hands resting on the railing. We didn't need words. The family we had become, the legacy we carried, the love that endured, all of it spoke louder than any apology could. And in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. My mother's love had never been lost. It had only waited for me to find it, and to continue it.